tonight. Senator, thanks a lot for coming on. You just wrote what I thought was a really interesting op-ed about China, and you have this line in here, which I think all of our viewers should be familiar with, and I'm quoting you. Chinese theft of American intellectual property alone cost the U.S. nearly $600 billion annually, eclipsing the combined profits of the top 50 companies in last year's Fortune 500 list. That's a remarkable number. Why is no one doing anything about that?
You know, for the same reason that this is an issue that surprised me. You know, for years, I kind of been a traditionalist on it all, thinking, like most people did, that eventually it would all work out, they'd become more democratic. And then I started getting involved in the human rights issues in China, and that led me to kind of understand the broader plan they have in place. And this is not an economic plan on their part or a development plan. This is a plan to undermine not just our competitiveness, but the competitiveness of every country in the world and become the dominant nation, the dominant economic, industrial, and technological power. And they're using multiple tools, including intellectual property theft, to do that. So not only are they undermining our industrial base, they are also undermining our technological base through something called Made in China 2025, where they intend not just to supply in America, but all countries on Earth and the West, in automobiles and passenger aircraft, in quantum computing and artificial intelligence. They've laid out the entire industries, and they're slowly but surely carrying out this plan.
So this is a threat, obviously not simply to our economy, but to our predominance around the world, to our power and to our values. Why are American industries not saying more about this?
Some of them are starting to. Some of them are making some money over there. And, you know, when CEOs, many of these multinational corporations, they consider themselves to be citizens of the world. These CEOs are going to be gone in 8 years. They don't feel, many of them don't feel any special obligation to the United States. They feel an obligation to maximize return for shareholders. And as a result, if they've got a good thing going over there making money, who cares if they're stealing technology and in 10 years the company won't even be able to compete with them? It's working out in the short term, and that makes them look good. So that's a part of it. Others are beginning to complain, but they're afraid to say so because they don't want to get kicked out. Just the other day, we heard two airlines, United and American, are being told that unless they stop defining Taiwan as a country, they no longer will be able to fly there. I mean, they're threatening them with hundreds of flights and billions of dollars in revenue. Marriott fired an American worker about 6 months ago because the worker put up a tweet or liked a tweet about Tibet. And they fired an American over a tweet that the guy put up by mistake. So that's what's happening. And so we've got a bill that addresses it. And if I could briefly walk through the 5 points on it, because they're important. Number one, we would prohibit the transfer. Yeah, we would prohibit the transfer of any and all technologies that are sensitive, things like quantum computing and biosciences and artificial intelligence and the like. The second thing we would do is we would place a tax basically on excess Chinese investment in the United States. How that works basically, they come, let's say they buy $10 billion of Fortune 500 stocks. That will raise the price of the stock. That will issue revenues, dividends. They then take that dividend money and they use it to buy U.S. treasuries, which increases the price of the dollar, the value of the dollar, thereby making American exports more expensive than a Chinese export, thereby destroying our capacity. And so this is not an economic development on their part. This is a strategic use of investment as a weapon to undermine our production capacity. We would also put a tax on American companies entering joint ventures with Chinese companies, because what they do is they make you partner with them, and then they steal your technology, your intellectual property, and all of a sudden they become your global competitor, they kick you out, and they put our companies out of business. And these are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking at and in this bill to put in place to even the playing field. Let me just say this. This is not an economic issue. This is not a trade issue. This is not a tariff issue. This is the single most important geopolitical issue of the last 100 years. It will define what the 21st century turns out to be.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm grateful that you're saying this. I'm a little baffled why more people aren't saying it, but I hope they will after hearing you say it. So thank you, Senator. Good to see you.
All right.
Thank you. A member of Congress is demanding that the U.S. government confiscate by force guns from law-abiding Americans. What would happen if the government tried that? That's next.